We're officially calling the meeting to order. I will call roll. I am here. Ashley?
Present.
Mark?
Here.
Roger is not. Was Roger a planned absence?
Yes.
What do you know? Okay. And Bijou?
I haven't heard any.
Okay. Kelsey?
Yes.
Siri?
Here.
And Sylvia?
Here.
Yay. Okay, we have quorum. So we can meet. Land acknowledgement. Would somebody like to volunteer for tonight's reading of the land acknowledgement, please?
I will do that.
Okay.
We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Muskogee, and Sauk, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work towards equity, restoration, and reparations.
Thank you. Approval of the July minutes. They are in your packet. Are there any corrections or additions? Anybody?
Move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Moved by
Siri can have it.
Moved by Mark and seconded by Siri. Any other discussion or corrections? All in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Next is public comment. So I don't see, unless Daisy, you wanted to comment during public? No, okay. Seeing nobody from the public, we will skip that agenda item. Introduction of Eamon is
He's not here, so I'm not sure what happened, so you can just keep moving.
okay. All right, well, if he arrives, then we'll jump back to that. Update on the Johnson County Direct Assistance Program. So this is good news. So I will.
Yes.
I didn't really prepare anything, so I will start. And if there's any questions, I assume everybody probably saw the news that the Iowa City Council a week ago last Tuesday, approved funding the additional 319 people. So essentially what they did, they approved funding an additional 319 Iowa City residents that were previously funded by the county. Mm-hmm. So that means that frees up county money in the amount of 319 people to pay all those in the county that applied and were deemed eligible for direct assistance but had not previously received a check. So I'm not sure exactly when those go out, but that should be pretty soon. So good news that, this body, this commission, both about a year ago as well as last month, if you remember, advocated on behalf of that program, and then additionally to fully fund the additional 319, and that happened. So thank you all for your support as part of this commission, as well as any individual conversations or lobbying you may have done. So I know I did a fair amount. And I know there's others here that did as well. So thank you for that. Any questions or comments on that?
I was just so happy to see that was done. I'm a little sad that there's not more news about it. Like, this seems like a time for celebration, that this was achieved, that we were able to successfully work toward equity and justice for those folks and be a part of that process. But I'm just happy it was done.
Yes. I think, unfortunately, with all the kind of back and forth and that kind of thing, there was maybe a little fatigue of news coverage of it. But you're right. We want this to be actually climactic. I know I posted something on social media afterwards saying specifically thank you, because obviously we're advocating for things that and pushing for it. But it's really important that we celebrate when good things happen. So
I thought the Gazette did a nice job, but it was on Thursday. It wasn't on Wednesday because it was a late decision.
Yeah. So if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to send a note to city councilors that, and thank them for it was a unanimous vote, so they all approved doing it in the final analysis of it. So as well as I shouldn't leave out the county, because obviously the county supervisors funded $2 million of that to start with. So big thanks to them as well. So that's combined 3.5, where it's going to end up being about $3.3 million that of the ARPA funds that will be spent on direct assistance to people that really need it. So especially many of those, if not most of them, were people that did not receive stimulus payments like the vast majority of residents did during the pandemic. So
I think it's important to note too, just for the record, for the recording that will ensue of this meeting, that we also acknowledge and thank the many excluded workers that came forward and fought on their and others' behalf, and all of the advocacy work that they did, because I think without that, it would have been really easy to ignore the issue and not have that end up getting resolved in this way. So
quite possibly, and many are doing so at risk to themselves and being very public advocates for some things. So yeah.
I also hope that we'll continue to talk about some of the other issues that Emily brought up in terms of the housing, that those residence areas being bought up and rent raised, and the issues she mentioned with the McDonald's. And I hope that we will continue to think about that and what we can do there.
Mm-hmm. Good. Any other comments?
I think I would just echo Siri's most recent comment of, I think what we see within this is in some ways easily bureaucratically solved, but in other ways it reflects structural issues, right? And so I think that as a body focused on human rights, thinking through how we can best support our community, even those who are technically outside of Iowa city limits, I think that is a really valuable thing to do. So thanks.
Agreed. Okay. If there's no other comments, we'll move on to strategic planning. So
Just one more comment.
Sure.
We're just fans of relationships, and that we have to be in touch with people. And I really appreciated how the community came together and brought their voice, and it's finding ways to cheer. Thanks. Go ahead, Jason.
No, that's good. I'll add to that because I was advocating for it and those kind of things, I heard from many people that I think that issue penetrated throughout the community a lot more than a lot of local issues. So a lot of stuff that happens at the city council level doesn't, I think, resonate or get heard by a lot of the community. And this one, I think, did, at least in a lot greater numbers than the typical city issue. So it's a good thing in terms of awareness for everybody that the people that were impacted by this. Okay, strategic planning. So in your packet, there are proposed assignments for our 3 committees. So there's actually 4 listed, but one of them is kind of ad hoc to do the work for the grants that we're going to talk about later. But the other 3 are kind of our standing committees. So and this was based on, Stephanie kind of put this together based on our preferences that we had sent to her as well. So I will open it up. So if is there anybody that would like to discuss changing that, or is everybody kind of comfortable with where they've been assigned?
I'm comfortable with where I'm assigned, but I did just want to bring awareness to, in case anyone else was sort of on the fence with where they're at, the fact that we have 2 potentially outgoing commissioners that are the only members of one committee. So I'm a little concerned for Breaking Bread's longevity in the event that, I don't know, we are not reappointed and can't convey continuance of how to move forward in that work for whoever would carry it on in the next year.
Sure.
So if there was somebody that was interested in serving, I certainly don't, I think we should adhere to not overloading and overwhelming anyone with more work. I don't know that we necessarily need somebody to take on 2. That seems like a lot, but if anybody was questioning or second guessing where they were at and wanted to join that subcommittee, I would welcome that.
I will say, I thank you for bringing that, because I noticed that too, because we're both rolling off of our terms. I think it helps if it's that one, because that one's really more kind of the ongoing education and outreach to the community and kind of our ongoing mission kind of thing. So I think, and you and I aren't going anywhere, so we won't be on the commission, but we'll be in the community. So if there's anything as new people roll onto the commission or join that committee in the first of the year, we can easily have some handoff and make sure that there's nothing dropped.
Jason, how soon should we anticipate that the city council will fill the vacancy?
That's a good question.
It will be at their meeting on September, is that 6th, 7th? Whatever that first
first one in-
Tuesday is.
Yeah, the Tuesday after Labor Day.
The 6th.
So, yes.
Right.
Okay.
I
So
think that
that'll be the new
person
appointment.
gets automatically assigned.
Oh, that's a good.
So-
That's a good point.
Might be the way. And
It's a good fit for them.
I,
They'll enjoy.
Well, it'll only be for a few months, and then they
And
can
then they
they
can
can
try
renegotiate
something
the first of the year when you
else.
guys all kind of talk about it, for the new commission.
I don't
Because you'll
know
have three.
the-
You'll have 3 more new members in January, presumably. so-
Presumably.
Yeah.
I don't know what your intent with this agenda item is, but I did want you to know that Kelsey Bijou and I just think we had an exceptional Zoom meeting yesterday.
Never heard of an
evening.
exceptional Zoom meeting.
Well, I like them.
That's
because
awesome.
Geographically, when we're so dispersed
Nice.
and time is short, Kelsey was able to put it together, and we attended to what we think is a good process. We thank you, Siri, for your preliminary work when we were together doing the strategic planning. So I feel like we're in a good direction, and if Bijou or Kelsey want to add anything, I just wanted to make sure that you knew we were about it.
Well, to answer your question, my intent with the agenda item is to formally vote on the committee assignments, so we can lock that in formally, and then the expectation would be for next month's meeting that these groups will have met once outside of our meeting,
Okay.
and then bring a report of their progress.
Well, we're overachievers.
Hey,
You've evoked my
obviously.
name.
Mark, I'll give you a sticker.
So I'll just jump in that not to share anything about necessarily our subcommittee meeting, but just echoing what Mark's already shared. But in case useful, so if on the team that's reviewing the racial equity and social justice grants, I have some foray into philanthropy, peace building philanthropy, especially too. If you ever want like a consultant on that or someone to bounce ideas off of, happy to chat and speak more about that. But really happy with the committee assignments as they are for me, and excited for all the teams and your future commitment to this. Yeah.
I would just echo what Jason said. I think it's okay as they stand with Jason and Ashley on Breaking Bread. I think it would be better to let us passionately engage in these groups that we've chosen for these months, and then we can reconsider where we're best working in the new year. But like, I think that Breaking Bread kind of is the ongoing outreach, and I think that will continue to happen. And I think our direction of building is in really building this robust grant experience and connecting those groups with city council through those relationships we're building. And I think that if we could really take off with the 2 later groups and sort of let people work there, I think that would be very productive. So I would make a motion to accept these assignments as they are. I'm very happy with them.
Second.
Moved by Siri, seconded by Mark. Any other discussion or amendments? All in favor of approving the committee assignments as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Okay, thank you very much. So just to reiterate, so now that we've got those set, we had asked when we went through strategic planning that each of those groups meet once, for at least an hour between our formal full commission meetings. So sometime between now and the end of our end of September meeting, make sure that so you and I need to get together and do that and schedule time. So get with your committees, schedule time, and then a standing agenda item from this point forward will be committee report outs from those 3. And the expectation is that you will have met, and then you'll report out on what progress you've made in that last month. And then any needs or asks you have of the full commission. from that.
For clarification for myself and everyone else, I think this will be beneficial too. Was the expectation also that we have some sort of formalized either minutes or notes that then are given to Stephanie to include in each week's packet, or are we just expecting an oral report at the meeting?
I don't know that there's requirement. I think that's preferred in my mind to have like some minutes or a written report out, especially if there's going to be some ask or need from the commission, so that the other commissioners can see that in their packet prior to the meeting. So
It might be nice if we are going to move forward with providing some sort of report that we agree on, or we have some just general template that, we're putting who's present, what was discussed, or any action items, anything that we need this council to help with. Or I don't know, those are just off the
Yep.
top of my head, but that would be nice. That way there's some consistency.
Okay.
I could see that being helpful.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Would someone like to volunteer to put together a quick
I will
little
do
template?
that.
Okay.
Siri.
Thank you, Siri.
You're a champ.
Should I bring that next time? Should I send it out? I'll send it to Stephanie and she can send it to everybody.
Yep. So sooner the better. That way we can.
Sorry,
have
I
that in our
just
hands.
volunteered you. May I please send it to you and you can send it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Just to add to Sylvia's comment quick, I think too, it might be helpful to, even if it is just really uneventful notes, just for the incoming folks and other folks that choose to hop subcommittees for the following year, to be able to look back on some of those minutes and be like, okay, this is the work these committees were already doing, this is what it looked like they were working toward, all of those fun things, just for keeping folks up to date on stuff.
Good. You got notes.
I took notes.
Good. Okay, next. Oh, so the next, we have on there draft communication to council outlining work. I guess maybe just a quick follow-up, because the draft of the email that we all approved, so that I did send that a few days after our last meeting. I did get responses back from a couple of them, which were very nice, and even Megan Alter even had a couple follow-up questions, was curious about how we initiated the planning and some of those kind of things. So I corresponded with her individually, but I think I got 3 responses back from city councilors and they were all very positive and welcoming of outreach to them, and as far as relationship building and all that kind of thing too. So they were all very supportive of that. So was there anything else then? Oh, yep.
I don't have anything, but when you're done with this agenda item, you can go back to agenda item 5.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Mr. Sharif. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I apologize for coming really late and missing the first part of the meeting.
No worries.
I got some stuff that dragged me down, but it's a great opportunity to be here in front of you. I didn't know Maliabu was part of it.
Bijou is everywhere.
But anyway, again, I'm Sharif, and I just joined the communication office as a community outreach and engagement specialist. This happened in beginning of June, so this is my almost second month completed of job. I'm very excited about the job, especially the horizons and opportunities it gives for us to focus on engagement. Community engagement, it's a big thing. I consider community engagement is central key to the city strategic plan. When I look into all those goals, I feel like everything would be easier if we have that established structure of community engagement that makes the life of everyone, including human rights, climate action, planners, public works, policing, all of those would eventually benefit from having this structure in place. So I'm working on that. I think also our neighborhood associations are very important in that thing, because they are key. But we have as you all may know, that we have a structured neighborhood association system. We have about 20 neighborhood associations in this system. We just recently added a new one that would be inaugurated in the coming weeks or so in the summit. It is called the Summit Historic Neighborhood Association, which just came out of Longfellow. Longfellow is a big body, and then a group of people just felt that they may need to go on with their own neighborhood association, and this is something we really look forward to have. It's just like assisting existing neighborhood associations to organize and communicate in a better way than what it is now, and also promote and encourage new formation of new neighborhoods as well. So this is a big thing. I think also working with community organizations is complementary to these things. If we are having our neighborhood associations and community-based organizations, all of them communicating in just like the maximum capacity, then we should be moving forward with our outreach and engagement, and then all the rest of the city planning and strategic planning and goals. I think this is all what I can say for now, but I'm very very excited. I think the commission is doing a great job, and there's a lot of not only opportunities, but there are a lot of things that we will be doing together. Having that outreach and engagement in as our focus area.
Want to do some quick introductions, our direction? Maybe it's, Mark, you want to start? We'll kind of go down the line here, too.
I'm Mark Priest. I live in near Willow Creek. I'd like the minutes to show your contact information, if that's okay. Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
We're neighbors.
We are.
Excited to see you.
I'm Bijou Maliable and live in Iowa City. Thank you for being here. I'm actually really appreciate you joining that. You're a very, very important asset to the city. So thank you for joining.
Hi, I'm Siri Felker. I am a teacher at City High School, and I live as far east as you can go on Court Street. My neighbors are Corn and Kelsey. But
Corn and Kelsey, man.
it's great.
Amazing.
But I'm so excited to hear about what you're doing, and I think that sometimes when we're talking about our programming, it's not always. I mean, I think that having this clear structure for actually reaching different pieces of the community and reaching them equally, and not just reaching the people who volunteer themselves, I think that's really exciting to think that like this programming could go out to so much more of our community. So I am excited for your work, and I'm excited to work together.
Jason Glass, I'm the chair of the commission this year. I worked in human resources for about 20 years, and now about 3 years ago I started teaching. So I teach business courses at the University of Iowa, and I'm in the National Guard. So I've been in the National Guard for about 28 years. I get to play music. I'm in the National Guard band, so so it's pretty good duty. I will echo something that Siri said too, which is I think with your position in particular with community outreach, that's something that is a big part of what we want to do as a commission as well. And we purposely, I think the City Council purposely tries to choose people for this commission that represent various parts of the community. So we want to be. I want to offer our help. So if there's anything that we can do to help with reaching out to a certain part of the community, then you ask us if there's maybe we have a connection there or those kind of things, or to try to collaborate in that way. And especially with your position, come back. So we'd love to see you, at future meetings. Not all of them. I don't want to overburden your time, but if you could come back periodically and kind of update us on how you're doing, and if there are anything that we can help with, and or just to hear about what you're doing, so we can help amplify that, or to spread the word and make your job easier. So.
My name's Ashley Lindley. I am the lucky vice chair of the commission this year. I'm currently a student at the University of Iowa. I'm actually getting my master's in social work. So I'm doing my practicum right now with the Rape Victim Advocacy Program here in Iowa City. And it's so interesting we're having this conversation. I think this focus and idea of revitalizing neighborhood associations when we do have so many, and there are, I know particularly my neighborhood association area has struggled to really thrive and be robust, and I think there's a lot of room for growth there and a lot of benefit to folks in the community. We have so many little micro communities within Iowa City, and some of that connection and even trust among residents is a lot harder to do when you don't have a strong neighborhood cohesion and folks really getting to see each other for who they are. So I'm very appreciative of and excited for your work. And I would just echo what Jason already said, that we are here as a resource and as collaborators, and we are equally enthusiastic as you in what you were doing, it sounds like. So please don't hesitate to reach out and utilize us in your work.
Hi there. I'm Sylvia Johns, and I'm in my first term on the Human Rights Commission. I live in Iowa City. I work for a global kind of nonprofit where I oversee our global partnerships, our programs, and our fellowships. And I am about 3 weeks into an intensive executive MBA program with the university, and it is intensive for sure. I'm really excited that you're here. I won't re-say a lot of the things that my colleagues here said, but I wanted to see if you could shed a little bit more light on. I thought it was really interesting that you said that there's a new neighborhood association that came out of an existing one, and if you want to share a little bit with me, how did that come about, and did you play a role in helping to facilitate that, or yeah, just any background would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Actually, that happened, as soon as I stepped in, beginning of June. So I wouldn't claim any, I don't know, victory on that. But the story behind it is so important, I find, because apparently this subgroup or this sub-neighborhood noticed that the mother neighborhood is too big, and indeed it is, and people here would notice some of our recognized neighborhood associations are really big, that even for them to function in the desired way would be like a big challenge. And so this is one of them, and then the people notice that they have more things in common than the biggest umbrella of Longfellow. So they decided to step forward. There are information in the city's website as to what it takes to form a new neighborhood association. And actually it is minimal, so there is no actual requirement below, just like having like a mutual understanding of sitting together, talking with neighborhoods, and then step forward and ask for a recognition in the city as a neighborhood association. This is what it is up to this point. So, and those people really, the residents, they really wanted to look at at themselves and look at their neighborhood association from its own resources, being a historic area, having unique character, and having like more in-depth relationships with each other. So they came forward and they did it. But what is important to me is when I look into this map of Iowa City, I see so many places that do not have neighborhood associations. Many of them. We have here the existing ones, and we all know that, the long history of Iowa City, and, actually the formation of neighborhood associations is very much connected with, issues like land use and maybe just like getting ready to fight back the government in things that people perceive as maybe threatening their either property value or stuff like that. But we understand that Iowa City is changing, and that change is rapid. And in terms of population, demographics, and stuff like that, it's an attractive place. It brought me in. It brought thousands of people like me in as well. So that makes neighborhood associations so important, just to be able to link all those people with each other and then with the government. So the government would always need this connection, and people, neighborhoods would also need that in the same token. So I think this is very important, and we will be working on encouraging and promoting the creation of this new formation of neighborhood associations.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what a pleasure to meet you. My name is Kelsey Paul-Shantz. On the condition I live in Iowa City. And I, in my day job, I work on looking at policies that promote the structures that fundamentally create more strong and resilient communities and prevent the worst forms of violence. And so really working with policymakers all over the globe to see how we do that. And one of the really exciting things when I hear you talk is about the community outreach within that and the impact of and now I'm speaking off the cuff, but I mean, I can tell you that when you feel connected with your neighborhood and when you feel like there's a community within your immediate neighborhood, you not just feel safer, and I mean truly safe, not just the absence of violence, but also engaged and like there's something engaging within your community that you get to be a part of, and that you are a community member within that. And so I just want to applaud you. I'm so excited to see all that you'll do in this role, and I really hope that you'll come back and report to us about some of the things that you're doing. Yeah, please come back.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be looking forward to do that. Not only with the commission, but with other departments as well. I've been working with the police department. We noticed that in the city we have so many outreach and engagement specialists, almost in every single department of the city.
Are you full-time?
I'm not.
Because we all want to have time with you.
I mean, I really think the responsibility behind this role takes even more than one full-time person.
Yeah, it was very clear as you spoke. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time here, too.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
Okay, I think we're on number 8, the Coralville Pride celebration. So we talked about this last month, and I know a couple of, maybe just Ashley and I had volunteered for to man the table. So anybody else is there anything else on this, Stephanie, other than just a reminder and to see if there's anybody else that can help staff the table?
Yes. And, you just don't need to go for the full time, so you can if you could just let me know the hours.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I was that specific, so I will. So we can both do that, or if
And
we
I
want
also
to.
need to get you goodies.
So say the only other question I had for that, I know there was a ceremony component last year, and to know for sure that we will be there for that, but we would need to know when that is.
I can ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, because I'm pretty open that day. I don't necessarily want to commit to the entire 9 hours.
It's a long time to table.
But
yes.
if there's a time to be there that's more beneficial than others with, if there's a, ceremony or something like that, can
Yeah.
target that.
Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So if there's anybody else that their schedule opens up for that day, then please let Stephanie know and we'll get you some time there as well. So next one is Climate Fest. So similar ask. I think there's a few people that volunteered last month as well. Do you have that, Stephanie, by chance of who's already
I am
raised their
all
hand for
in.
that? You're all in for
Siri
that?
and I were
The
available.
whole time.
Sylvia and Siri?
It's going to be a party.
And we'll just have to
Friday.
make arrangements to get you goodies too. They're supposed to have a table there for you already.
Swell.
I'm not going to be there for that one,
I
unfortunately.
might be there. I'll let you know to confirm later on, Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I make just a comment on that part of the
You
agenda? That while you're engaging with Climate Fest, that's exactly when the UN General Assembly is meeting, and they're focusing on, they'll be speaking about climate issues as well that week. So if it's a great time to follow the news and to refer to some of those active ongoing discussions there.
Good to know.
Thank you for saying that.
And in a busy town, it's also Shelter House's Barbecue Bash. It's a big fundraiser.
I'll be on my way to St. Louis to watch my girls' Irish dance that weekend. So, all right, number 10. The IDI assessment feedback. So this is the one that Claudia sent out, correct?
Yeah, and
Okay.
she just sent out a reminder. I think there's 4 commissioners who haven't done it yet.
Right. So just a push and reminder that if you have not yet taken that survey out, I took it a week and a half ago or something like that. It's about a 15, 20-minute commitment. It wasn't bad. So So please do that so we can have as full participation as possible. Any questions or further comments on that one?
I
It's
just want
pretty
to say
straightforward.
I appreciate the reminders because I've been swamped. So just keep spamming my inbox, please, and I swear I will do it.
Okay. Number 11, racial equity and social grant updates. So this is the committee kind of a report out that had looked at our application and questions that we ask for the grant, as well as it looks like a rubric update as well for a scoring rubric. So I will turn it over to a member of that committee if you want to kind of walk us through some of the changes, and we can have a discussion about it.
Shall I?
Yeah, I
So-
can jump in whenever.
Yes, please do. So we met, and I want to recognize that some of our suggestions were not aligned with. Some of them we need to rethink, according to Stephanie's feedback. But our main objective was to make this grant application way more approachable, streamline it a little bit, and focus on what were the questions that were truly going to impact whether or not we choose to fund a group, and try to, if there are other, I guess my intention in saying that is that if there are some questions that might impact how we help the group, or it's more about what we're going to do, we kind of want to take those things out to streamline the process. So, and then there were a couple other vocabulary changes, like you might see throughout this this application that sometimes it's referred to, the project is referred to as a program, service, or activity, and we kind of streamline that to just refer to it consistently as a project. And before I continue, is this is the original application here, right?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
And then you have the grant application edit, so it's actually helpful if you pull them apart and
Yeah,
set them
so,
out.
yeah, I guess I invite you to pull these apart, pull off, like, starting at the highlighted section. I tried to type up our edits. The first thing that we wanted to do, and please push back on any of this, this was Roger, Sylvia, and I discussing some edits informed by some of Ashley's feedback that she provided. So the first thing we wanted to do, this is this new question where we were going to ask applicants to just confirm that they are comfortable, and the objective is like confirm that they're aware that we will, as a result of our new, more robust grant experience, be reaching out to each recipient in order to continue offering support and assist in their sharing of what they accomplish. So we just want them to have an active recognition of that intention on our part. So that would be the beginning, and then that whole original section from the name of the organization to the website address, we didn't have any changes to recommend. Are there any comments so far on that?
Nope.
I appreciate the added question to check in for consent. I think
Yeah,
that's especially important and really gives more acknowledgement of the fact that we really do want to ensure that we do the best we can to help these applicants succeed, should they be selected to receive grant funding. So I just think that is just so very in alignment with all of the new things we talked about since we did our strategic planning. So I appreciate that addition.
Perfect.
If you had somebody say no, how would you handle that?
I think we would reach out. I would reach out to them and see if, like, was it that they understood that that was a part of what we intended? I mean, in my view, having this ongoing relationship seems responsible on our part, and so I guess I would want to reach out and see if they didn't understand or if they were actively saying they didn't want interaction after. So I guess I'd want clarification.
So my concern, is this answering in response to problems in the past?
No, I mean, the whole goal, to my understanding of the reciprocal relationships group, was that we would expand our grant to be this more interactive process where we...
So, Mike, why are you asking a question? Why don't you just make a statement? A member of the Human Rights Commission will be in contact with you.
I want them to confirm that they know that before we allocate funding, and then there might be potential, like, miscommunicate. I mean,
Okay.
if it's not necessary, then.
No, I think it's
good
necessary.
to
I
say
think
it.
we're
I don't know
clarifying
that-
how you ask, because I think Stephanie had a good question, which is, what if they say no? So what we want to try to avoid is asking questions that then we have, if there's an answer, we have to follow up on, because then we're just
Right.
adding steps.
Okay.
Right? So if we want it, if it's a given, if it's a requirement for that we say, this is what we're going to do, then it can just be a checkbox or something like that to say, instead of a yes or no, right?
Yeah. I
I-
guess I would like
that-
interaction with it, because I know that I read past statements.
And we also know that while we try not to award to the same organization over and over, that sometimes it does happen. And this is a change in the way that the Human Rights Commission will interact with the grantee throughout the grant period or the project period. So we want that to be acknowledged. And that can be, I think, Jason, that's a right statement to say. It's a checkbox. Maybe it's not like it's a check, and if they don't check it, then you don't go forward kind of thing.
Just to give more
Yeah.
information, before money is dispersed, there's an agreement between them and the city that they sign. And in that document, that's where they're signing to their responsibilities and
Okay.
duties. And so that may be a better place for this.
I agree.
And if they're uncomfortable, then they probably wouldn't sign the agreement.
So maybe we do make it we either just scrap it, or we make it a statement, or I think it's just important that it's clear in our outreach, in that webinar, that there is a change in the grantee experience. And whether we need it here or not is, I'm either here or not.
Right, so
I didn't
it's-
understand that.
So I think it should be part of the training or part of the announcement of the grant, so that people, that this is the expectation, and then we make it part of that agreement. And
Yep.
I think that covers it without having to ask a question in the
I like,
grant process.
I don't misunderstand. I like the idea.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to be in touch.
Yep.
Good.
The whole contact person section is pretty straightforward. We did suggest cutting the last question that starts provide an example of a project initiated in the last 3 years. Sylvia, do you remember the background on that conversation?
Yeah, I think it was that we didn't understand how their answer to that necessitated our opinion on whether or not they should receive a grant in the future, and the project in and itself.
So the new project is the one we're concerned with?
Exactly.
And I guess we don't want to overly privilege groups just for having done a successful project in
Exactly.
the past, especially since we're trying to encourage new groups or new projects, excuse me. So that was a suggestion, if anybody wants to comment on that.
So, I think there was a little bit of value in asking, it's basically what's your track record is what you're asking that,
Right.
right? So we're asking how many years you've been in operation and kind of give us a little bit about what you've done in the past. So I agree. I don't know that I really looked really closely at that
Right.
when we answered it in the past. It's kind of redundant. It might just be I'm thinking out loud, but if it's we have organization's mission statement, and we do only have, it could just be provide us your mission statement and a brief background of your organization, and allow people to add a couple sentences, as opposed to being that specific about, tell us about all the projects you've done in the past. And
So see,
That does seem
is this one of those sections where we often see folks write in the organizational history, or remind me, do we have a separate question for that?
I'm looking
'Cause
ahead.
I feel like I read that a lot. Each year that we've done these grants, there's usually some history and background of, this is our purpose, this is what we've done in the past. I think this is where those usually come from. We just wanted to lump it
One
together with that
possibility
somehow, or
could be
clarify it.
organization's mission statement, and then maybe a parenthetical invitation to include an example of a project that demonstrated that mission. I think our goal was to not too heavily weight our consideration if what we're trying to consider is the potential value of this new project.
Exactly.
No,
Is it
I'm with you on the intent. So I'm in agreement on,
Yeah.
in large part, on what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to think of, I do find some value in getting a little more description of the organization, because I mean, when we score these, I mean, one of the things we do look for is feasibility. You know, are we confident that this organization can pull off what they're saying they're going to pull off?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, in the rubric in the past, we've had kind of this, you know.
We're going to get to the rubric from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that feasibility should be focused in on what the project is that they're proposing, and is the budget and the timeline that they're also providing feasible, and not whether or not they've had feasible or successful, or what activities they've done in the past 3 years.
Okay.
And that's why, and just trying to take this application from being what looked like a run-on application where each year someone was like, oh, we should add this question, we should add this question.
Yes,
to
that
really
is
getting
true.
down to like, what is the nuts and bolts of this social justice, racial equity grant? What do we need to ask these folks, given that they're giving their time to do this, and it's not a guarantee that they're going to get it? And then we'll get to the rubric and identifying a rubric that matches up with those questions, so it makes it a little bit more transparent and fair in the way that we judge.
I like Siri's idea of perhaps just adding a parenthetical invitation to invite folks to share an example of something they've done that exemplifies how they live their mission in their organization. I think is a great idea, because I think that more accurately captures what was being attempted to be captured here, without continuing to promote some sort of potential structural inequity of lending more credence to an organization maybe that has done more stuff in the past, has a better looking track record, when maybe there's just as worthy a project from somebody that's new, up and coming. I could see this in the conversation now. I could see, if this stays, it having a disproportionately negative impact on a newer organization, perhaps,
There's a bias there.
than longer standing organizations, as an unconscious bias. in the
Especially with the way
application.
the rubric was set up. Because, like, with the weighting in the rubric, and you just get my teacher juices going, but, like, there was heavy weighting on historical accomplishment that I don't necessarily think was our goal. So,
Okay. Are we okay with that
I made an
correction? I do want to recognize that we have a lot more to go through, so.
Do you mind if I just ask us to zoom out for a second?
Yes,
I just
please
wanted to, because I appreciate the line-by-line edits and the work that of the subcommittee, and I just want to check as a newcomer that I'm on board, and I'm processing in the ways that you want me to on the purpose and the intention. So, and because there's a lot of different models for how you can, in philanthropy, request applications for your funds. And I think from my experience and what I've seen, I mean, there's really just 4 things you need to know: what the project is, what the desired impact is, how you will get to that desired impact, and what do you need to accomplish that. Those are the 4 basic things you need to know. The other questions that are intermixed in this are questions of due diligence, of is this organization capable? Do they have a track record? And can they do what they say they will do? So if that information is valuable and you want to collect that we want to collect that within an application, that's great. I just want to make that distinction of it's different than a proposal. It is, have you demonstrated the ability to create impact or the potential to create impact in the community? And if the goal of revisiting this application is to reduce the burden of the people who are applying, I think being very, very, I will be in favor of reducing as many questions as possible. And I think that's the intention of the work that's gone into it so far.
Well, so that was it. Thank you so much for saying. So that was our goal, is to reduce that burden. And just when we're thinking about groups that might be for the first time, I mean, these aren't huge grants. They might be smaller groups. They might not, I mean, they probably don't have grant writers or people who interact with a ton of grants. And making it just accessible. The thing we ran into is there's some questions that are sort of built in with the purpose of the grant so when we look at the question about, I'm going to go to the 6 priority areas, that was a question that we cut in our discussion, but then I was informed that that's part of what, so that has to do with what our commission is tasked to use this money for, if I'm understanding correctly. Stephanie, am I right? So we can't cut that question because we need to know like how they're addressing what the purpose of this grant was. Is that right? Okay. So, and I don't have the experience to know how to go about that. I don't know if using potentially a different like grant application model would help us build in making sure that those priority areas are being met, or if there's something we could do, even if it's more work on us and less work on the group, to where part of our rubric is making sure that it meets one of those 6 priority areas without us necessarily asking them. But then I guess it goes to like, they're theoretically applying to the grant because they know that it's meeting one of those areas. I mean, we need to be specific with our applicants, like.
So I'll jump in because I think it's certainly relevant for us to ask, because we have these grants are for specific purposes, and for them and for the organization to say, how to tell us about your project and how it meets the requirements of how this money gets used. But like on this page, I'm looking at from the question of what is the program down to does the program serve, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions are all really asking the same thing.
Exactly.
Well, and that's
right. They're all just in a slightly different way. So you could summarize all those in one question and say, what's your proposal, what's your proposed project, and how does it meet the requirements of the one of the six areas, and then that's the narrative, and they just do that once. So I remember reading these and going through this and going through. It's a lot of redundancy, and you can tell people are writing it I'm trying to figure out some way to say this in a new way, and I'm just killing myself, right? trying to figure that out.
So to that end, we actually did suggest cutting quite a few of those. We narrowed it down to providing. We added a new question, which is the title of my project is, and then we condensed that narrative question to please provide a narrative of your proposed project.
And then if we need to have a specific thing around those 6 areas, we could just.
Well, what we did is we condensed the following 4 questions into my program will advance racial equity and social justice by ...
Yep.
And that's this question 4 that's highlighted here. So we cut quite a bit of that top chunk of that page.
That works for me.
Now, what I don't know is whether it would be acceptable for us to make it an us job, a part of the rubric, to assign value to whether we feel that those 6 priority areas are being met, or if we do need to include that back in.
I just also want to say, these questions are asked because they are important. Like, if we start cutting so many questions and the answer become very short, we will lose what they actually, the importance of what the project is. They might just be very specific and just say my project is because of this. Some people don't show up to the meeting to let us know exactly what they want to use the funding for. So if they're answering this question, also help us to know more about the organization, what they're doing, what they've done, what they're doing this for. So I think cutting so many questions down or not having too many questions, for me, it limits me from knowing what this organization is for and what they're using this funding. Also, for the people that don't have experience in writing grants or know what to say or what not to say, I think this question also help them bring more of information of what they're doing. That's just my.
You're talking about the 6 priority areas question.
Yes.
Yeah. I think as long as it's clear, there's clear descriptions of what those 6 priority areas are, so that they're able to identify which ones, fit within their project. If it's important to keep this within the application, I think we should do it, because it sounds like that it is foundational to the mission of the social justice grants.
And I apologize, I'm saying this because I just met somebody today that was talking about how we only pick the same organization all the time. They've applied, and I spent almost an hour with her. And if from my conversation with her, is like if we reduce this question, then she won't answer so many to talk about her organization, and she won't have any hope to reapply again.
I think
So you're worried that if we don't ask enough questions, there won't be enough space for them to
Right, for them to speak about
I was look at it different ways. That I want to give them a very clear way of giving us about the organization. I think so, the way that we've structured this and added some of these questions, they're just telling us over and over again, or they're trying to come in up different ways, and it becomes confusing,
But
both for them and for us.
But we've seen some people that actually can write an exceptional grant where you read it very nicely and they know what to say exactly briefly, and people that don't know what to write or how to write. But through this question, we get to understand what they mean. That's just
And I would just to build off of some of your comments, Bijou, and some of the things that I heard Jason saying earlier, I would agree and I know, Bijou, you've done this much more, but having gone through this process 3 times now, I think that it feels like more questions were added with the hope of clarifying and seeking more of those answers like you're talking about. I can also see it as a barrier and a roadblock for a lot of folks. And I think if we can ask better questions, if we can simplify it with fewer but better questions, maybe that will make it easier, because the alternative downside, as someone that has been engaged in this work and has done all sorts of nonprofit grant stuff, is that those folks that do have experienced grant writers or have folks that have done this before, that just provides them with more opportunities to
Right.
like outshine everyone else and impress us with all of their massive grant writing technique, which is fantastic. I appreciate when agencies are able to do that, but for those newcomers that haven't ever been selected before, that don't have folks that have been able to have any sort of grant writing experience, that this is totally new for, I do agree with the subcommittee members that simplifying, cutting out what seems to be repetitive, as Jason said, some of that stuff seemed like it was the same question asked plethora of different ways. And then maybe condensing or improving the way that we're asking for some of the other information that would be helpful. I agree with you, Bijou, that the 6 priority areas and community need even could be very helpful in determining what would be there's always good projects for the community, but what might be a optimal candidate for receiving the grant.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way that we've got this structured now, I remember thinking that these questions put smaller organizations without experienced grant writers at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because we've asked so many questions that the good writers, the people that know how to be,
We have all this room to shine.
right, and then the people that don't, this becomes convoluted and it diminishes their application because it's hard to get through it and it's hard to read all that stuff.
Mark?
Is there a timeliness? I mean, how soon are we calling for applications? Does the commission need to approve the form so that we can distribute it? So the applicants,
Yeah, the
our
grant
next
would
meeting
be-
is the 27th of September? Is
Yeah,
that-
I mean, I think what would be easier to this would be to have a proposal with just the questions you want to
Yeah,
ask.
this is,
Just to look
I
at it.
think this is choppy and kind of.
Yeah, going through these line by
making it
line
harder
is-
than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so maybe for the next meeting, just have question 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, what is the
And
new
then people
proposed
can comment
application?
off of that
Okay.
instead of
When do we call for applicants?
December 1st. But the
Okay.
orientations are in
November.
November, so,
Yeah.
and has to be lead time because
Got to print.
somebody in ITS puts it, they actually do the form, so I have to get them the
Thank you.
information, so.
thanks, Mark.
So if I were to simply rewrite the application with questions and bring that next time, would that work?
Oh, and float it among us, yeah. Well, that would help a
Yeah,
lot.
put that in
Yes.
the packet for next meeting.
Right.
Put the proposal and that way we
Right.
have a starting point and if we can.
And what you can also do is you can send it to me, as long as people reply to me.
You can
they-
send those
you
replies to
can-
me.
The committee can see the revisions or the suggestions from others even before that.
Yeah.
That's
September.
helpful.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay.
That's
Would it
great.
be helpful, sorry, no, go.
No, I just wanted to, so we agreed that we're going to add in the 6 priority areas. Just before we move on,
Yeah.
was there anything else that stood out that you'd like to ask a clarifying question, or that you really feel like we should be in this next revised, application as we move forward? Yeah, Kelsey?
Yeah, I mean, I just would, again, this might be just my newcomer, but if we could also just include the description that is listed before the questions of what people are receiving, that would be really useful. So for example, if we are holding ourselves accountable as a commission to including more applicants or including different recipients of these grants, we should say that in the description. We should say in the description itself, we strive to include those who have not yet previously received grants from the commission, or things like that. So if you can include, that's just one example, but if you can include in what you share back with all of us, the description that's normally at the top of the page, or what people are seeing as they're thinking about, is this something worth my time in applying for, that will be important for us to also review.
Okay.
And we have kind of a regulation that you can't get a grant 2 years in a row, right?
You can if
not
you.
3.
Oh, yeah.
You can only if you were previously
Only
funded.
repeat once.
And it's a continuation of the project. But other than that, it always has to be a new initiative or a new project.
Yeah, Siri, that'd be great if we had something we could look at.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we will table this to next month with those additions. So I should say also, great work though. I mean, this is a good start. I know we were starting to get in the weeds, and that may be not sufficient for all of us to do it that way. But I know you did a lot of work, and I think everybody's in agreement on the intent of trying to streamline the application, make it more accessible for organizations that, especially newer ones that don't have formal grant writers, those kind of things too. So
Celebration of every math teacher that started work. I'm so glad you showed your work.
Just one question before we move on. In terms of the rubric, if you could just help us
Yeah,
see
I
where
was
those.
hoping that I could kind of just
Oh, sure.
explain a couple of the other major things in case those need to change before I give you my draft. The 2 big things I wanted to bring up is if you look at the budget, we changed the format of this, and this was sort of Sylvia's previous grant experience. You want to just really
Hold on, I
quick?
gotta find it.
Essentially, I think it was difficult for people to understand how we wanted them to format their budget previously. We got a lot of different things. And so we really just streamlined it to where, in addition to telling us, how much do you need, just item, description, unit cost, quantity, total, and just let them add. We're not.
So we have a consistent format
Not
for how we're seeing
sections.
it.
Consistent format with, just so everyone's on an equal playing field as far as what they're turning in. Because before, I think we even got budgets that weren't even adding up to the
total.
The total. So I think having this sort of streamlined, with here's so everyone starts at the same place, saying here's a template that makes the most sense.
And then my goal, as far as the rubric went, and this is my teacher self kicking in, but my goal was to actually borrow the format in the IDI assessment that we got, and use a consistent scale. My experience trying to use the rubric the last year was that you basically allocated up to 10 points for a series of categories, and it was all equally weighted, and it left me with the impression that some aspects, like especially an organization's previous history, were heavily weighted. And so what we wanted to do is first, if you look at, and I can't even find the old rubric, so whatever, but we cut a couple of the questions about the organization's history and the organization's impact or mission, because what we're really focused on is the project. Right. So that history matters, and their organization's mission matters, but it doesn't necessarily matter for 30 points out of a 100-some point application. So what we tried to do is focus our questions more directly on what the application was actually asking about the project, and then have a consistent grading scale to where we're not all independently deciding how to allocate 10 points. Because our scores were all over the place.
Right.
And
Additionally, there was this section that was like your own criteria, and I think there was just so little guidance on how to use that again, our scores were all over the place, and it really made the weighting, took away from our effort, honestly.
And what you'll see with these from the years of scholarship and fellowship management that I've done is the best practice here is that the application questions align directly with the application rubric so that we are able, even as reviewers, to see, okay, so we're asking, what does success for this project look like? How many people will it impact and how? And then we're answering, this project demonstrates success by, and like having those align up is going to be the most fair and equitable way for us to review and rank.
Not only that, I think it's going to save so much time.
Oh, yeah, well, there's that
and make
too.
the process so much
Yeah.
less
I mean,
painful for everyone reviewing grants. I will be perfectly honest. When I saw this, I'm like, I don't know who came up with this, but the Likert scale was genius. And
Well-
just to echo what Sylvia said, like, having that consistency between the application answers and the things that you're looking at on the rubric is invaluable. Absolutely invaluable.
And it makes it fair.
It
Oh, yeah,
does.
it does give it, and the Likert scale does kind of give us a standard vocabulary for a lot of stuff, because before it was just very open. It's like
Yes.
assign 10 points, and easy grader, tough grader stuff came into play. So it was
Right.
really, which is why we ended up doing the whole ranking thing, because we couldn't really compare scores because we didn't have a consistent kind of
Yes.
way of thinking about it. One quick question: the ninth one says total points.
70.
So the reason it says 25 is because when we put together the rubric, my intention was to have a scale from 1 to 5 where it was exactly like the survey. It was like highly disagree, somewhat disagree, no comment, somewhat agree, highly agree. It was going to be 1 to 5 even. I'm a huge advocate for even intervals, but we won't talk about that. So that's why that was, but we can have it add up to whatever.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that I
it
wasn't
would
thinking
be-
about that differently. So that's
It would be
yep.
70
Yep.
or, yeah.
0 to 70, basically. Okay. No, I mean, I think that's there may be other ways of doing it. I think this is a huge improvement over what we've had to date. So,
Absolutely.
okay, so we've got our actions for bringing this back next meeting, and in the interim,
When in the interim, Siri's going to create the application.
Yep.
Updated, send it to Stephanie, and then Stephanie's going to send it out to us. And if we have comments, we can send it individually back to her.
yep.
And then Stephanie, then how do those comments come back to us?
Then I can just, if they're coming in kind of at the same time, I'll
Yeah.
compile them on one, like, just one Word document.
Okay.
Okay.
But if they're kind of sprinkling in, then I'll probably just cut and paste them.
Okay. Do we want to try to create a little bit of a timeline of how this
I
will go, or
will-
you're just gonna,
Have it done by the end of this weekend.
okay, okay.
So what is that? The 28th, right? Yep.
Okay.
I will have it to Stephanie by the beginning of the next work week. Yep.
Great.
Okay. Okay, moving on. One community, one book. So this is also in your packet. This is the last page of your packet, I believe, and goes along with the book that you have in front of you. Stephanie, do you want to talk to this a little bit about?
I mean, I really don't know any more than what
So we all got a copy of the book.
yeah, I got everybody a copy of the book because the commission chose at the last meeting to be a sponsor, so
Oh, okay, that's it.
hoping maybe somebody would want to participate.
I will.
But so, yeah, so that's your book, and it looks like you just need to have it read by Friday, October 7th, and it looks like the author is also doing a book signing, so if you wanted to get your book signed, you could do that too.
Yes, in W10.
I'm looking at the last page. What is it? Can you translate that for me? 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, W10 PBB.
Oh, that's Papa John Business Building.
University speak.
Yeah, so that's what this building I work in. So it's Papa John Business Building. That's the business building on campus right across the street from the
I love
Pentecrest.
inclusiveness.
Like very
It's-
square.
Yeah, and then so it's a three-sided thing. W10 is the large lecture hall. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's on the end
John.
that enters into the walkway the Ann Clearly walkway that goes from the
I'll find
Pentecrest. It's
Mark,
a
I'll pick
huge
you up.
lecture hall. It seats like 400 people. So
Wow.
No, it's fine. It's across from the Newman Center. I'll find it.
yep, exactly.
Thank you for the book, Stephanie.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's like a really good read.
I'm excited.
The Human Rights Awards. So deadline for submission for those is September 7th or 8th, something like that.
I think it's a little later, like
Is it
maybe
later?
21st or something.
Okay, I'm confusing it with something else.
But
But we need to name a subcommittee that's going to review the nominations and select or propose winners to the
yeah,
larger commission.
It looks like the last day to nominate is the 22nd.
22nd
Done
of
that
September.
before, and I'm willing to do it again.
I would like to join.
I'm better at it this time. I didn't do it.
I thought you were going to say you're better at it than me, and I was like, whoa.
He would
So
never.
Mark and Siri, this
Someone
being
describe the time commitment, it being my first time.
1 hour.
It was pretty short when I did it last. We got
Yeah.
together, we had one meeting, and yeah, I don't think it was more than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I
There's
think I
there's
just learned
six awards. I'm trying to
Six.
so 6 awards. Depends on how many nominations we have. Obviously, in some years we've only had 1 or 2 nominations for each award, so it's really just kind of a go no go kind of decision.
Mark has
the-
what I say.
The
I just know more about it, and I'll do it better. I didn't do very well last time.
I'll be
thought you
new,
did
so I would
fine.
like to learn from you.
I'd be happy to
I
do it
think
too.
what
I didn't do it last year. I did the year before.
What I want to
If folks
say
with
is,
value experience,
Yeah.
I could do it, but it seems like there's plenty of volunteers, so.
I've done it
just,
before.
we
so I'm
have
allowing
6
everybody else
awards that we could award. We're not obligated to award them all.
Correct.
I think that's something that we need to
So if
remember.
there is not a worthy nomination for that award, then there's nothing forcing you. So Siri, Mark, I will beg off to you.
Heard a lot of names. If you're needing more members, sure. Yes, I'll be a part of that. But I
Mark,
just
Siri, Kelsey, anybody else?
So I
strong
think the
feeling
question
about it.
is, would you like to? Because there was plenty of interest, but it's not something that you want to do. You will have future opportunities, so
No,
don't
yeah.
feel
I
obligated.
just about called you pastor.
Oh, no.
I think we met here.
Did you? Okay.
That's my memory, that we met in this room.
So I got Mark,
We can
Siri.
meet on my porch, too. Except
I remember
I think
a
it's-
Zoom meeting one year.
I can,
Yeah, well, when I
looking
did it
at the
was-
list,
we
I
were
can clearly
not
tell
meeting
I'm
in
on the
person.
wrong side of town.
I have Mark, Siri, and Kelsey.
I look forward to it.
Those 3. Stephanie, there you have it. Okay. All right.
So who are the 3? Just Siri, Mark?
Siri, and Kelsey.
Okay.
Staff and commission announcements. I'll open it up for anybody have anything they want to share.
I do.
Okay.
I am very excited to let you all know that I am in the process of working with the equity department in the school district, specifically Laura Gray is an incredible human being. And I was part of, in my role as the representative for all secondary school educators in our teachers association, I was at her equity training for the new teachers, which was fantastic, and I really think we ought to have it at the beginning of every year for everyone. But I got to talk to her about connecting some of the programming that we do and would like to do more of with the school district. I just believe so strongly that some of the things that we want to help people access in terms of education, the thing that comes to mind is this race-based calls campaign. And I would so like to think that our kids can engage with a conversation about how to appropriately use the police. And I know we talked about that when they came and spoke with us, but it's a compact video. It could be a great discussion in small groups. A lot of kids have a homeroom or what we call advisory. And she was so eager to have me come to the district's equity meeting next month. And I'm really excited, and I'm hopeful that that can be something that we start maybe with that and that continues. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's like in the works, and that she's a wonderful connection if anybody else ever wants to talk to her. Laura Gray.
That's awesome. I'm actually gonna take that note. GRAY.
I'll talk. First of all, congratulations on that July lens. It really helped me understand more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is DEI language that I'm not familiar with very often, and it gave me access to some really good resources. Good. So thank you for that. Yeah. Last Wednesday, I was with the Interfaith Alliance Against Racism. It's an 8 o'clock Zoom, and it's people across the state. And the intern made her presentation on LGBTQ plus helping organizations and institutions be inclusive and welcoming. So some highlights I learned: we talked about gender expression, we talked about misgendering, we talked about best practices, and she had developed a chart that could be used, for example, at churches. She talked about bathroom equity, and these kinds of things in Iowa since 2007 are pretty good, at least as. I also learned about churches that now have in their children's library a book called Harry Milk and the Pride Flag. And it was really encouraging just to hear communities talk about that book and how important it is in their preschool libraries. I will be attending the September 8th Johnson County Interfaith Coalition fundraising dinner. I'll be at a table of 8 from my faith community. And I'm really excited about our Building Bridges team, the work that we're doing. Thanks.
Anybody else?
I will just mention that before we meet next, September 21st is the International Day of Peace. So as you're thinking about how you are a peace builder in your community, in our community, peace builders you know about, the messages of how we can actually achieve greater degrees of peace in our communities. There's a science behind it. It's definitely possible. It's a great advocacy mobilization day and effort around September 21st.
The things we should watch for?
I would say, so I already mentioned that the UNGA, UN General Assembly, is overlapping on that date. It's a 2-week span of time that UNGA, that they're meeting. But I would say just watch for things that you can promote that might be on social media related to the International Day of Peace, or even just people you see who are committed to peace in the community that you want to uphold during that time.
Are you going to be at the UNGA?
I am not going this year, but I will be in DC, I think at the beginning of September, for discussion on the U.S. strategy to prevent and respond to conflict, and with the United States Institute of Peace. We'll see. So, yeah.
There's actually an event that the office is co-sponsoring along with several other organizations that will be held September 20th. At Mercer Park at 5:30. There'll be a program.
Great. Excellent.
I don't have anything super exciting, so I was going to wait until later. I'm grateful for new adventures and new steps in my journey of obtaining a graduate degree and doing more work actively in the violence prevention field. I went back to my practicum site at RVAP yesterday, and it was nice to see everyone after a summer away, which was very hard to step away from the work for that long, but got welcomed right back in again. It was like I'd never left, which was fantastic. keep an eye and an ear out, because I will be much more involved this year as a full-time practicum student, essentially, in planning events and stuff. There's a lot of room for growth, the staff and I discussed, in bringing awareness to sexual violence and dating violence and consent culture and all of those things year-round, not just zooming in on it in the month of April. So
Yeah.
I will probably be bringing things for all of you to share with your networks and communities. And of course, if you want to be more involved, anyone can always reach out to me. I love collaborating with different groups and folks. So
We like it too.
I'm excited for opportunities.
Fabulous.
I will just, I'll jump in. Was on a panel last week last week? Boy, I'm losing my calendar. Last Wednesday for the Quarter Business Journal for their diversity, impact, and inclusion and impact symposium here at the Hyatt in Coralville. So I was on a panel talking about hiring for diversity, but had several other really great speakers, one of which who I hadn't met before was Ladrina Wilson, who's in the Quad Cities and does consulting, and I believe she's going to be like the interim head of the chamber there as well, because she's been on their board. And I just learned something new that I thought was really interesting. She had a relatively long talk and talked about several things, including like the Iowa Nice or Midwest Nice thing, and how some that can be double-sided in some ways, which I've heard before. But the new term I learned was the Midwest Quiz. Have you not heard of the Midwest Quiz?
Educate us, Jason.
The Midwest Quiz is what, and I realize I'm very guilty of this, and so I'm going to be much more conscious of it, which is those of us that are from the Midwest or that are natives of Iowa, for instance, start out a lot of our introductions and conversations with asking where you're from, what high school did you go to, with the intent of trying to make connections with, because in the Midwest, we tend to have a lot more people that they are living in the state where they were born, which is not true in many other. It was less true in some other states. So, and I've helped learn how alienating that can be to somebody who's not here, especially if it's followed up with, if it's that those connections are there, or if it's, because it oftentimes ends with, oh, well, if you're not from here, I want to understand what brought you here, right? And if that can be a beneficial conversation in some ways, but not if it's, why in the heck did you decide to come here? Which is because those of us that are from Iowa have this kind of inferiority complex sometimes of, we assume everywhere else outside here thinks badly of us, and so you must have been dragged here kicking and screaming or something. So, so I think it was really a powerful thing for me for her to name that, and then I'll be much more conscious, because I certainly have been guilty of that, and I'm hopefully it wasn't off-putting, but it very well could have been, and so I'll be very, very careful about that in the future.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Anything else before I? Did you have anything?
I have so much to say, but it's a lot, so I won't say much.
Say it all.
No, say it all.
Now, I just want to say thank you for the meeting. It's always great. I don't want to say, because every time the people that watch to say about, why didn't you say about this? So, so I'd rather just say, school is back. The kids are in school, so I'm happy for that.
Where are your kids now? Where are they now?
The kids?
Yeah, which school?
West High and Hills.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes, and I'm excited for my new group. To tell you the truth, I was like, I didn't get a chance to pick myself where to be. My name just got put somewhere. I'm like, wait, what? But I'm happy. It was great. So I'm excited. Yesterday was really, really encouraging. So I appreciate that. I think I just want to also thank everyone here for everything that you guys are doing. Everybody's watching, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Daisy.
So Saturday is Latino Fest for those of you that are going to be wandering around. There's all sorts of vendors, food, lots of different city staff, and it's honestly just a really fun time. It starts at noon and it's done at 9, so they know how to party. We'll be
Is it
there.
downtown?
Yes.
The
Okay.
Penn
So
Mall
Penn Mall?
area.
Penn Mall?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of between like
I
the
loved it last
library
year.
and Brothers, that general area. So that's Saturday, and then Sunday, the Optimist Club is having an airport breakfast. So it's over at the Iowa City Airport, and all the funds go to various youth charities. So if that's anything you're interested in, they start early at 7, and it goes all the way until noon.
It's great. I was there last year, and it was great. They had
Yeah.
big car show, too, so. if you're-
Yeah, there's all sorts of things, and I know Fire will be celebrating their 150th anniversary out there, so they'll probably outshine us, and that's fine. But they'll be there, and that's this Sunday. And the last thing is we have our annual Battle of the Badges. Well, kind of annual. We took a break because of COVID and stuff. So we're bringing back our Battle of the Badges, which is actually a softball fundraiser between the police and fire departments. And all the money raised goes towards the PD's peer support team and the firefighters benevolent. So good causes. There'll be food. There'll be a bake sale, and just
That's at
other.
Mercer, right?
When was that one again?
September 8th, 6 p.m. at Mercer. And that was all I had.
We always like to go to that, but not.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie? Nothing?
Nothing.
One other one that I forgot, please put a plug in for those Human Rights Awards. So we are still seeking nominations, so talk to your network, use social media. There have been years where we've had very few nominations, and so we want to have some better competition, or a lot of good competition. So, okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved by Kelsey, and
seconded
seconded
by
by
Bijou.
Bijou. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.